Hi, guys. Welcome back to the NatRevMD Podcast. My name is Dr. Heather Signorelli, and we are here to talk all about the things to help your practice grow, to help revenue. And I am so excited to have a dear friend, somebody I have known for, I think, over 10 years, if we really want to say it. Emily Steele here, who is a rock star when it comes to marketing and all things about brands and just really how to present yourself. I'm excited to have you on, Emily. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Heather. It's really good to reconnect in this format, and I'm looking forward to having great conversation together and hopefully some takeaways as a result of my experience working alongside the medical field in my 18 years of digital marketing experience.
Tell me about just your marketing career and kind of the folks you've helped along the way as you've now settled into, kind of branching out and doing your own thing.
Yeah, happy to. My background is purely working in marketing and predominantly e-commerce and digital advertising. So I've worked across industries, a lot of healthcare, have worked in the travel industry, heavy in retail. And I really decided I wanted to switch and start my own startup called Steele and Sage Consulting, where I work predominantly with for good organizations. So that could be B corporations, nonprofits. It can be anyone who's really focused on sustainability, also the medical field. And really the pivotal point that caused me to shift in this direction was based on my own medical experience, where 3 years ago, as Heather knows, almost as of the last couple of weeks, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and just realized my heart wasn't matching my profession, where I felt I was working with these clients where I didn't believe in really the mission I was aligned with. I was working in some fast fashion organizations where I was contributing to landfill waste. And as an environmentalist and somebody who buys a lot of her clothing secondhand and thrifted, it just didn't match what I was really wanting to do and contributing to the greater good in society. So after that happened, I decided to spin out and am now into this new journey, which has been so incredible. I really like connecting with different people, helping solve problems, and then really being an advisor alongside these organizations, helping with anything from fractional work from an optimization perspective, marketing, and then really just very much an ideas driven person. So just love conversations and sharing any insight I can based on my background and again, applying it for good for these types of organizations.
I love that. And, a lot of what we started this education and our billing company was really around helping physicians stay independent and to each their own. There's nothing wrong. Obviously, I've worked in corporate healthcare. There's nothing wrong with whatever model you choose, but should physicians choose to be independent, should they choose to open up their own practice, how can we help them succeed? And I think one of the tough things in talking to, practice owners, again, whether that's a single practice, single doc, to practices with 40, 50 docs in multiple locations, is how the heck to become a trusted person or somebody that they can find you. I mean, I've always heard the hardest part about a business is making sure people know that you exist, right? Because maybe you do this amazing thing, but if nobody knows you exist, then they're not going to be able to find you and set up a meeting or come in, see you in person. And so, what would you say, maybe the top 3 things that practices could do to help increase brand awareness, and little things that they can do to help, improve, just visibility?
Great question. I feel, using my own experience, I've worked, as I mentioned, Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 500 companies, but also I've worked with several startups. I love the mom and pop shops, the new entrepreneurs. So I oftentimes give the same recommendations regardless of size. And then really the only differentiation is scale and budget and all those things that come with having a larger practice. Oftentimes, the most common thing I hear when working with the medical community is they want more people to know about them, to have more word of mouth. And I would say the 3 things that I always recommend to the medical healthcare industry is the first is fixing your digital front door. And I'll talk more about each of these things holistically. Second is to show up with consistent and relatable content. And the last and third thing is to build trust with privacy first marketing, given as we know, with HIPAA constraints in marketing, and that's something that's very important. And I'm happy to go into the first one. So fixing your digital front door. Yeah, go ahead,
Love
Heather.
that you say digital front door. Like I'm now actually have this like visual of this place that you come and visit, because I will
Yes.
tell you, as someone who had an ugly digital front door, and
Mhm.
somebody told me, they were like, your website sucks. And I was like, crap, really?
We need to get that cleaned
I
up.
no, and it was so kind of her to tell me that. I would rather somebody tell me, and my website still may not be perfect, so don't judge me, but like the digital front door, just seeing that
Mhm.
picture, I think is really cool. And so tell us about the digital front door.
Yeah. So similar to what you just mentioned, painting that picture, when you think about your business, looking at Google specifically, like your digital front door. So if it's disorganized or silent, people won't know who your practice is or who you're serving. So really making sure Google should be front and center in that digital front door. And something that's really important is, and key elements of this digital front door, is to make sure that you have your website optimized to a mobile first perspective alongside desktop. So there's a lot of different tools that you can use usually, and whoever hosts your website, you should always preview first and foremost, how does my site look mobile optimized? How does it look from a desktop perspective? As you want to make sure that's crystal clean for people, and especially focus on reviews. So reviews in this community is so important. I have a few stats noted here, which I think are helpful in reintegrating why this is so important. 77% of patients check online reviews before booking a doctor. 80% of patients trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations. And obviously, personal recommendations are so important to this community. And then also, positive reviews directly correlate with increased booking appointments. And the higher the ratings, they oftentimes see, if you have 4.5 plus, you see an uptick of 20 to 30% more patient inquiries and bookings. So I really want to hone in on how you can do that and have ratings. And I think the first step that you can do to have ratings is to set up a Google profile. So a Google business profile, especially if you're a small business, is something that you should have set up. And this helps when somebody's searching, and I'll use my breast cancer example. If I'm searching breast cancer doctor near me, it provides options for those localized practitioners of they're in Denver, where I'm located. And then it has the options to pull in those ratings and reviews. And so you want to encourage within your organization for people who are comfortable to provide reviews. And usually that's something that we may have seen in the dentist or at your other healthcare appointments, where it's a QR code. You can scan it. As the more reviews you have there, the better you index on things like search engine optimization, where that's a service that you don't have to pay for. It's just, if you search your practice, does your listing pop up at the top? That's really helpful for that as well. So Google My Business and Google Locations is important.
Okay. Can I tell you a horror story that happened to me
Yes,
recently?
please tell me all about it.
Okay, so also have a Google page, NatRevMD, have 10 reviews. They're all positive, 5 stars. Great, love it. When we moved, I changed the address to it, and Google took it down. They took the whole thing down. I had to fight to get it back. I did get it back, and we figured it out, and like we've went through the verification process. I got denied like 3 times, and I just kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and then finally like got it back. And I was able to actually reach a human by email, but like my heart sank a little when that happened. Granted, good outcome, but so, okay, good to know that those are really that important. My fight was worth it.
And Heather, I can say, I love Google. It's not to knock Google at all, but from a customer service angle, can be very challenging. So I'm sure that process of just reaching out, having it's like months long sometimes. Yes. So it's helpful to work with organizations or people who can help you through that process, as that's a very common qualm. If you have any issues, it will just take a long time to get those listings shifted over. So I can understand how that was probably frustrating.
It was It was not, I was like, my page, it's all gone. It's like I don't exist anymore. And the other thing I'll mention, because I can hear my physician colleagues talking about this, is the fact that they'll always occasionally get a bad review. So in my mind, I think, okay, you know that you may get bad reviews. Obviously, reading and understanding those bad reviews, dealing with that. But then on the flip side, ask for as many reviews as you can, because you know the good always likely outweighs the bad, but the bad are the ones who tend to go and seek out the opportunity to leave a review versus asking for the positive reviews.
I'm glad you brought up the bad reviews, as there's always people who are just Debbie Downers. Even if you're a great physician, they're going to be upset or pissed about something. So I think the other thing that's important about that is response time, where you also have alert if somebody gives you a review, good or bad. Always follow up with that person and say, thank you so much for coming into our organization. And then praise for the positive reviews, and for the negative reviews, if there's any context of, does this person, is their qualm accurate? And if not, you can say, I'm sorry that you had a bad experience with our scheduler up front. I would love for you to call me. Here's my phone number, especially if you're a small business. Then people will read 1-star review and then see that that practitioner has followed up and they are very much on it, responding. It goes south if you have the Google reviews up and then there's all these negative comments, but there's zero communication from anyone within your practice. So diligence on response time is very helpful for that as well.
Good to know.
And then the other thing, I was talking about SEO, so search engine optimization. So this is something else that's really also tied into your Google reviews and with your website as a whole. So there's several tools that you can use within Adobe Analytics, Google Analytics, Google Campaign Manager, where you're able to see the type of keywords that are indexing and which ones you should put in your website and feature more. So it's something that you should dig in deeper if you have analytics on your page. If you don't, you should definitely get some set up. So you're having a sense of, are people searching for keywords that are not anywhere on my website? What keywords should I use? Always have your geolocation, obviously the services that you provide, resources, blog posts, all things like that link to your website and then link out to your website. Those things are things that enhance you as a small business and will allow you, if somebody searches in Google, breast cancer specialist near me, does your listing pop up, or don't you have the right keywords where it's not popping up because your website doesn't match that search query? So I would just say constantly be reviewing those things. And a lot of websites have built-in analytics structures as well. So I would recommend people just nerd out a little bit with that data if they have access to it, so they can figure out how to constantly be optimizing their website for traffic.
And if somebody's listening right now and they're like, holy cow, that was way overwhelming and I don't know what the hell SEO means, and there's like Google Analytics and there's keywords and there's all kinds of things, does your firm help like strategize? I recognize you may not do all parts of the marketing cycle, but would you help strategize on an approach and how to think about that?
I feel like my default is just like, let's go deep into the weeds.
I love it. No, I love it. It's such an important thing to know.
There's definitely different ways. So yes, I always can help work with organizations and meet them where they're at. So perhaps they just built a website. They don't have analytics in place. They don't know where to start. I'll provide a free audit with the organizations I work with, where I'll look at their website, how it's set up, and provide, here's an introductory thought of the top 3 things that you can do to scale your organization. And then we'll come back to it within perhaps 6 months if we feel like we want to go in a little bit deeper, provide more suggestions, but really just chunk it off as a whole that way. So you're not doing 100 different things. Is that if you do 100 different things, you're not able to measure the impact. So I think it's important to start small and then measure the impact and then add to it as needed, just to keep things clean and concise.
Okay, good. I feel like you and I have a to-do list coming.
Yes, we'll follow up more after this.
Okay, and then so the other thing you talked about was content. Just talk about that a little bit.
So content is really important in terms of how you speak to your patients. So oftentimes, again, using my example of breast cancer, you don't want to be talked to like a statistic. You want to make sure you're talking to the people that you're seeing and your patients with care. Another example I saw in terms of talking about care and the breast journey is with mammograms, where I was looking for, do I still need mammograms in Denver? And something popped up where we're going to help you with a comfortable mammogram experience. And I think just the term comfort is really important, is really leaning into what the patient's fears are and addressing those things proactively on your website as you're building it, of not just saying, here's our schedule, here's what we can do to help you, but really to adjust those qualms that people might have, and being proactive and putting some of that content onto your website, in your e-newsletters and your blog. So it really, again, calms the fears of the people who may be coming in to visit you and addresses that pain point.
So you're talking blogs, you're talking videos,
Yep.
email newsletters, like all the things. Or maybe for listeners, maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I have none of those. Maybe starting with one of those. Like, can you have something on your page or resources that help tie together, again, those patient fears with the clinical conditions that you treat in your office?
Completely. And I think coming at it from different angles, marketing and advertising should be fun. And I think from the medical community, I know all of you are so smart and like very numbers driven, quantifiable. This is an opportunity on the marketing side where you can have fun with, how do you want to promote yourself? It can be on your website, or it can be on Instagram. It can be on TikTok. It can be, if you're interested in writing, having a blog. And if you have a blog, just keep up with that blog. And it could be the most recent research. It can be, again, addressing the top 5 concerns of, if you have XYZ condition, here's information to help you. But again, just to stay consistent with it. So finding ways to address those qualms is really helpful. And I think in a good example, and this isn't necessarily a medical practice, but an organization that I think does really well in terms of addressing different problems is the brand Nutrafol. Do you know that brand, Heather?
Yes.
You've probably seen it, right?
I've seen it. I've seen it.
And it calls out where I'm like, do I need to be taking these hair pills? Like, maybe, like everyone else seems to be doing it, because they do a really good job of addressing different target audiences. They address women who are going through menopause and losing hair. And for those of you who don't know Nutrafol, you take a supplement, and it's been clinically tested to help regrowth with hair. And you take it, I don't know how often, I don't have it, but I probably should. You take it like once a day, and it helps grow your hair in, 3 to 6 months. So when they target their audiences, they do it across different areas. They do it on video. They do it through social influencers. They do it through their website. And then they also target from a precise way, as I was mentioning, of women in different phases of their life, as well as men. So again, menopause, after I've had a child or a baby, a man who is going through hair loss in his freezer phase. And along with it, here's the clinical trial, and here's all the reviews. Again, that ties in kind of what we were talking about before, where I think really addressing the pain point with a solution is always really helpful. And finding a way to do that for your practice across channels is really an exciting way to get your message across.
And so if I'm like thinking to myself, okay, I gotta produce something, but I'm seeing patients 5 days a week, and the idea of like producing content every day is overwhelming. Like, is there an interval that, okay, should it be once a week? Could it be once a month to start, and then increase as time allows? Or could you do it sporadic and still have the same result? Like, what does that look like?
I would recommend, in the initial phases, posting directly on your website. So having an area on your website that's either a forum or blog posts. And I would say keeping up with it at least monthly. If you're doing social media, I would say try to do that weekly. And I know maybe some practices, Heather, you could probably answer this better than I could, if they have other people on staff who help with things like social media or website development, or is it the physician who does it? Or sometimes is it
All of
either
the
or
above.
where it's
I
like
would
all
say
of the above?
all
Yeah.
of the above, but I would say if you are listening and you're a physician or even any healthcare team member and you are doing your own social media, to highly, highly recommend getting a VA. And having someone like Emily's team do strategy and so forth, but then hiring somebody, and I don't know if you guys hire out for this, but a VA, we use a VA out of the Philippines, and she's the most lovely human being ever, and I just adore her, and she's allowed me to have so much of my time back. And guess what, I actually realized I suck at social media. I suck at it. It is not my zone of genius, so it is better for me to hire out.
Yeah, and I think that's good also knowing your strengths. If it's not worth your time, you all are physicians, you make solid money. You shouldn't be down here in the weeds doing the things that me and my team do of like optimizing Facebook posts and things. That's something that other people can help you with. And there's, as Heather mentioned, a lot of great affordable offshore options too for these types of things. So just making sure you find the right resources is really helpful. But I will say something that's I've noticed more just being on social media myself. I'm 42, yet somehow on all these TikTok feeds where I've noticed a lot of chiropractic firms are within those feeds of social media where they're showing here's how to stand at work, here's how to do posture adjustments. It also depends on the types of, again, medical practice that you're in. Is it helpful for you to see visually here's what you should be doing? In that case, it's really helpful to have either videos on your website or again, post and have more of a community on the social media side if that video component is helpful. So I think it also very much depends on the type of practice that you represent.
And I think it's key to have, while I'm grateful for my VA, I think having somebody to help with the larger vision and view who has a lot of experience on the strategy piece of this is really, really important, because right now it's just me directing her. And while she does a lovely job and it's great, I don't always know what to tell her to do. And so to have somebody she can bounce stuff on against, I think having a marketing team would be very helpful for her.
Yeah,
It's just,
absolutely.
you know, so I think for listeners, whether you have the VA or whether you don't have anything at all, I think having somebody who you can consult with is really important.
And this also, I'm glad you mentioned that, Heather. This leads into the third point of building trust and also being focused on privacy first, marketing and advertising. So just as we're talking about people doing this themselves, I think it's really important to be safe in terms of how you do advertising. As there's been several stories in the news of medical practitioners, organizations who have somehow leaked important privacy, HIPAA regulations out regarding their patients' information, or there's been organizations who have shared, here's the list of my patients and they all have breast cancer. They sell those lists to other advertising agencies and targeting organizations. I've seen that firsthand. So I think it's also really important if you're doing any advertising to make sure that you're very diligent in, am I setting up things correctly? And is this a HIPAA compliant way of tracking my website? Is this a HIPAA compliant way of measuring people who are coming to the website and advertising towards those people? So I think that's a really important component within this specialty. If you are especially go into the paid realm of paid advertising, you want to make sure you do that very strategically.
I've never done paid ads. I feel like it's just been like this black hole of I
Yeah.
don't know how to do it, and so I've just been very nervous about it. Luckily, we've had enough growth with our podcast, but still I think I know many physicians who we do billing for, they do paid ads, and I think this is a really important scary topic that
Yeah.
just having somebody consult with and go, okay, yes, you're doing it right, or no, you got to change these things would be very valuable.
Yeah. And I feel like this is downplaying what I've done the last 18 years where I've done predominantly paid ads, but I feel like you don't have to do paid ads. The first thing I would recommend, as we talked about before, making sure your website is clean, easy to navigate. You don't have too much content that once somebody hits your site, they see right away, here's my value proposition, here's what I offer, here's how I'm addressing your pain point. And then, as we talked about with the second component, making sure that you have the right keywords so that your site indexes well. If somebody searches you on Google, and you can search your own brand to see, are you on the first page? Are you on the second page? Are you on the sixth page? You can see how it's indexing based on where it's coming up. And especially with your brand name. So if you're searching your brand, your company, if my company is Steele and Sage Consulting, Steele and Sage is the brand. Is it popping up? It should pop up because it's my own brand. If it's not, then another organization is bidding on my term. And so I'd say if you're going to do the order of importance should be website first, get that dialed in, making sure that you have your content clean. And then after that, if you want to step into the paid, I'd recommend doing Google first. So Google is what we were talking about with your Google business profile, so people can find you locally. That is the best way to show up. After that, I would say if you wanted to delve into the space of social, you could pay for that, but really you can do so much organically where you post on your own behalf. You don't have to pay for that. So especially for smaller organizations, you can have a really solid practice and not pay anything. You just need some time in terms of setting that up. And then a great metric to look at to see if you're succeeding is to look at if your ranking is growing overall. Are you seeing that if you type in your brand name, is it showing up at the first or second page, or is it still on the sixth page? And then also if you have, as I mentioned, those tracking tools, how many visitors are you getting? And measure those visitors over time, monthly, to see if it's growing, just so you know if you're going in the right direction. And once you hit that point of diminishing return where you're not getting any more visitors, at that point, it's a good point to say, okay, maybe I step in and talk with somebody about paid. But you can really scale without doing a lot from the paid perspective.
I love that. And that's simple things that people can do and then increase as their practice grows or they've got revenue and stuff. All right. So how can people find you? Can you do an audit for them? Can you have a brainstorm session? How can people find you so that maybe they could hire you, even if it's a small hire and maybe it grows and scales as they grow, or maybe they're already big enough and they want you to come in and reassess? How do they find you?
Thank you for asking. I would love to talk with anybody who's struggling with any of these elements that I discussed today. My website is steelandsage.com. It's spelled SAGE. It's my daughter's name, so thought it was a relevant website. And I do free audits with organizations. And there's also a contact area on my website to set up a 20-minute call so we get to know each other to see if I can help you, or I have a strong community in also the medical field, if there's somebody else I'd recommend, but would love to have further conversations and have really enjoyed joining your podcast, Heather. It's been good to connect and share together both of our offerings and how we can help each other in the future.
Yeah. And I've just known you for so long, and you've been such an amazing person as a friend. And I truly think that you have a rock star offer for folks. And I really appreciate your knowledge today. This was huge value, and just a lot of really good tips people can walk away with. For the listeners, I will leave her contact information in the show notes. And as always, if you are looking for a full service medical billing and coding team, you can reach us at NatRevMD, NatRevMD.com. And we would love to assist your practice, as so would Emily. So thanks again for joining this week, and we'll talk to you next week.